Hello, my friends. I think everyone remembers that yesterday Trump hinted that elections need to be held in Ukraine. Of course, everyone understands that this is connected to the fact that Zelensky isn't agreeing to the conditions of the United States, and so they want to replace him with someone more cooperative. And Zelensky said that he is ready for elections and has ordered preparations to begin for elections in Ukraine.
And yes, today there are many questions about elections in Ukraine. For example, the website of Channel 24 Trump said today that it's time to hold presidential elections in Ukraine. Are the US pressuring Ukraine on this issue? And have you discussed this matter? Have the delegations discussed it? And so, first of all, I want to say that I have not discussed this issue. Second, the question of elections in Ukraine, it seems to me, depends first and foremost on our people. It is a question for the people of Ukraine, not the people of other countries, with all respect to our partners. And I'll be honest, regarding the elections, I am ready. If the question is, and I've heard these hints, that we are clinging to power, or that I personally am clinging to the president's chair and that this is why the war is not ending, to be honest, that is a completely absurd idea. But to hold elections, there are two issues. First of all, security. How do we hold elections? How do we do it under strikes, under rockets? And regarding our military, of the question of how they will vote, you know this, and I don't want to repeat it. And the second issue is the legal foundation for the legitimacy of the elections. And since this question is now being raised by the President of the United States, our partners, I will answer very clearly, look, I am ready for elections. Moreover, I am now asking, and I'm saying this openly, for the United States of America, together with our European colleagues, to help provide security for the elections. If that happens, then within the next 60 to 90 days Ukraine will be ready to hold elections. I personally have the will and readiness for this. Next, since things have taken this turn, I am asking the deputies of our faction, in fact, our parliament, had to prepare legislative proposals for possible changes to the legal framework and the election law during martial law. Prepare this for me. I will be in Ukraine tomorrow. I expect our proposals from our partners, proposals from our deputies, and I am ready to go to elections.
Now, be sure to write your opinion in the comments. And I think everyone understands that in any case, whoever becomes president will agree to whatever conditions Trump demands just to please everyone and end the war. And as we understand, it won't be Zelensky, but another person who signs the capitulation of Ukraine. Friends, be sure to write your opinion on this in the comments. And here is what Putin said, that they will achieve these stated goals.
Let me start with what you ended with. Territory is important. This is our historical territory, oh, absolutely. Russia was formed in such a way that this was always part of Russia. There's no question. It's simply a natural thing, a historical fact. Even during the formation of the Soviet Union, there was a dispute. I've said this before. Donbas entered the RSFSR, and then Vladimir Ilyich decided, as he put it, this is a direct quote from a document, to redecide it. And he redecided it. And that's it. Donbas was handed over in the process. That's how it happened. I won't comment now on what followed. But the issue isn't only that. It's about the people who didn't accept the coup in Ukraine in 2014, and who were attacked. They were attacked using artillery, heavy equipment, tanks, and aircraft. That's how it all started. That's when the war began. We are trying to end it. We are forced to do this through military means, and we will absolutely bring this to its logical conclusion, to the achievement of the goals of the special military operation.
In the meantime, new information has appeared about another deadline from Trump. Trump intends to make a deal by Christmas. He gave Zelensky a few days. The peace proposal suggests that Ukraine must give up part of its territory in exchange for vague security guarantees from the United States. Meanwhile, at the UN, Ukraine's representative told the Russians that they would get a donut hole instead of Ukraine.
But let me be clear. Our territory and our sovereignty are not for sale. We're not at the Christmas bazaar. We're not at the infamous Syrskyi market. Russia wants Ukraine to capitulate, as we just heard. Russia wants us to surrender. But my reply to you would be,
Oh, I don't know why it wasn't finished, but he said that we will get you a donut hole, not Ukraine. Okay. I have only one question. Why does the UN even exist with millions being spent on an organization where they just sit around, tell fairy tales, and nothing ever changes? Because there is absolutely no benefit from the things they discuss there. Friends, be sure to share your own thoughts about this in the comments. And it's also important to know that a new ranking of the most influential people in Europe has been released, and it reports that Zelensky came in 14th place while Putin took 4th. I think that says a lot. Meanwhile, Syrskyi stated that every soldier is extremely important for Ukraine, so the general staff doesn't cling to the remnants of cities and always gives the order to retreat in time.
For us, every one of our citizens and every service member is the highest value. We don't fight for ruins or for the foundations of buildings. When defending a position truly loses any meaning, I give the order. We pull our units back in order to preserve our service members. This basically explains why the Russian army is advancing slowly, because for us, it's better to lose 100, 200, or even 300 meters than to lose the life of a single soldier. That's the difference between us and them. That's why I believe that if we're talking about peace, that peace must be fair, not something dictated to us, and not something that demands we give up part of our territory.
Friends, be sure to write your thoughts about this in the comments. Now, let's move on to the front and start with the Konstantinivka direction. Here, the Russians continue storming Protechine, Pleshiyivka, and Klebanbyk, and they are pushing toward the village of Berestok and toward Rusin Yar. Heavy shelling also continues, but for now there is no confirmed Russian advances in the area of Verlyupivka. However, it's important to note that Russian sources are claiming new gains, and the gray zone in this area is expanding. And if these Russian advances are confirmed, it would mean the situation around Konstantinivka is worsening significantly. So for now, we're waiting for official statements, but I think everyone understands what's happening. In the direction of Dobropilla, the Russians are storming Suvorova, Nekanorivka, Shahova, and Sofiivka. And yesterday, Ukrainian soldiers began reporting that the Russians had already captured Dorozhny and accordingly Nekanorivka as well. And we can see that this has already been confirmed on geolocation maps. The Russians are also claiming that they captured the village of Dorozhny. During the last 3 days, the Russian army took full control of the village of Dorozhny and some trenches west of it and re-entered Ivanivka. So we are waiting for official confirmation, but in reality only 7.5 kilometers remain to the outskirts of Dobropilla, and the Russians are moving in that direction. This means the front here has once again begun to gradually collapse, and this started after reserves were redeployed from this area for counterattacks near Pokrovsk. Now let's move straight to the Pokrovsk direction. Here, Syrskyi confirmed that Pokrovsk had been completely captured by the Russians, although at that time this information has withheld from the public. But now reserves from the Dobropilla direction are carrying out counterattacks in Pokrovsk and achieving successes. At one stage, there were no Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk, Syrskyi admitted. Since November 15th, as a result of our offensive actions, we have managed to take control of about 13 square kilometers of territory within Pokrovsk, out of the city's total area of 29 square kilometers. So there are indeed successes in Pokrovsk, but in the Dobropilla direction, setbacks have started again. At the same time, as before, the situation in Mirnograd remains difficult. However, there is still no order to retreat. And for now, over the past day, the front line remains unchanged. And here is what Putin said, that supposedly many residents remain in the captured towns and are waiting for Russia.
In the combat zone, in the settlements our troops enter, there are quite a lot of civilians. When our soldiers asked them why they didn't leave in time, the answer is very simple. We were waiting for you. We were waiting for the Russian army.
In the Novopavlivka direction, the Russians continue storming the city. Fighting is also ongoing for Dachne and Ivanivka, but there have been no changes over the last 24 hours. For now, all attacks are being successfully repelled. In the direction of the settlement of Pokrovsk, the Russians are pushing through in the area of Oleksiivka and Novoalexandrivka, but there have been no changes over the last 24 hours, and the front line has been stabilized. In the Gulai-Pole direction, the Russians continue trying to break through near the village of Solodka, and they are storming Preluke and Gulai-Pole. There is also a large number of shelling here, but there have been no changes over the last 24 hours. In the Zaporizhia direction, the Russians are assaulting Stepove, while activity in other areas has decreased for now, and there are no changes along the front line. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue shelling, but no new assaults have been recorded, and the front line remains unchanged. Now let's move on to the Syrsk direction. Here, the Russians are assaulting Yampil, Dronivka, and pushing toward Syrsk and the area around Fedorivka. And today, Ukrainian soldiers are saying that we are losing Syrsk. And on the geolocation maps, Syrsk is indeed already marked almost entirely in the red zone. The situation there seems to be continuing to worsen, but there is still no official confirmation of this. In the Liman direction, the Russians are pushing toward the outskirts of the city and trying to establish positions. They are also assaulting Zarychne and pushing in the areas of Kolodezi and Chandragolove. But there have been no changes to the front line over the past day. In the Borova direction, the Russians are pushing across the fields toward Chernyshina, but they haven't made any progress, and the front line here remains unchanged. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are assaulting Petropavlivka and pushing past Peshane. There is still heavy shelling, but over the past day there have been no major changes. Russian activity has significantly decreased. They haven't captured Kupiansk. At the same time, the Russians don't hide that they are having to retreat, and we can see on the geolocation maps that the gray zone is expanding, and Ukrainian forces are indeed advancing here, so the situation is improving. In the Dvorichne direction, attacks on Dovhenka continue, but they are unsuccessful. Ukrainian forces are repelling them, and the front line remains unchanged. in the Veliki Burluk direction. Attacks are ongoing in the Odradne area, and the Russians are trying to secure new positions in the fields. However, Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling them, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Vovchansk area, fighting continues with the Russians actively assaulting the village of Liman, where there is now a large gray zone. Ukrainian forces have already shared video showing the destruction of Russian troops near the village of Vilcha, indicating that the Russians are making serious advances here. As can be seen, the red zone near the village has even expanded. However, we're still waiting for official statements from the Ukrainian side. In the Sumy direction, activity is minimal for now. There was one attack near Oleksiivka, but the Russians have made no gains and the front line remains stable. Also, I think everyone is already aware of Trump's statement that Ukraine will not join NATO and will not reclaim Crimea. Zelensky commented on this situation.
And the next question. In a recent Politico interview, Trump said that at the very first meeting with Putin, Volodymyr Zelensky stated, "I want to return Crimea, and Ukraine will be in NATO." Is this true? If not, where did President Trump get this from? Look, we are realists. We truly want to join NATO. In my view, that's fair. But we know for sure that neither the United States nor a few other countries, to be honest, currently see Ukraine joining NATO. And Russia, of course, will never accept us there. As for Crimea today, we don't have the strength to reclaim our Ukrainian peninsula completely. I may have said this at the first meeting, and I believe I was right. And to be honest, yes, we currently lack the capacity for all of this. We don't have enough support for all of it. But I said it at the first meeting. I believe I could confirm this at the last meeting with Putin.
Friends, make sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. And that's all from me, so please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.